Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the This Might Mean Something podcast. Before we get started here today, I do have to touch on a small subject. Unfortunately, due to some life circumstances, my co-host Spawn20 will no longer be joining us on this podcast. So it will be just me for a while, and actually, I have somebody that I would like to introduce today. He will be joining us as a co-host for the foreseeable future. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Mike. I'm Kysa's husband. I am God. What am I? I don't even know. Online, I sort of stream a little bit. Go by the username CrazyKid9559. If you watch Kysa on Twitch at all, then I typically stream with her a lot. Just mostly streaming games and stuff on there. I also have a YouTube channel by the same name, mostly for uh other videos and just uploading streams mostly. Nothing much I'm doing with it, and I actually need to catch up on that. But anyways, I am a pilot by train at least. I'm working on finishing my degree as a pilot and going from there, trying to get into some flying jobs. So yeah, what else you want me to talk about?
Yeah, you also have a flying channel, don't you?
Yes, I do. Fly with Mike. It's um I just have two videos up there right now. If you want it's Fly with Mike, all lowercase. 8877, because there's so many mics out there that are pilots
There
and want to try
are.
and upload on YouTube. So
And they all chose the name Fly with Mike. Well, the first time I was trying to
yes.
find your channel, I couldn't find it. And there was like 30 channels that came up that was Fly with Mike. And I was like, none of these are you. Uh, it was really
Yeah.
awkward. And I was like, can you just send me the link to your channel?
I need to
Obviously,
come
if
up with
I
something else.
Yeah, and that's a problem for another day. But obviously, if I can, I'm going to try to link you in the description of both Spotify and on YouTube. It should have me, or should give me a way to link both of those. If I can't do that, I will have his channels. They are both as requested channels in my main page, the Kysa Gaming page. So if I can't link them, because I think YouTube has a weird thing that you have to be going for so long posting videos before you can start linking external links or even internal links.
Link. Yeah.
Yeah, just like links in general. You can find both of his channels on the bottom of my Kysa Gaming page. But I want to touch base a little bit on your flying because, you're a pilot. That's not something that a lot of people can walk around and just say, I'm a pilot, I fly plane. So I would like to actually get to talk to you about that for a little bit today. What got you interested in being a pilot?
Well, so I was actually in high school. I was homeschooled for the most part, or a mixture of homeschool, private school, and all. When I was in, I believe that was ninth grade, I was actually doing an online school where I had courses online, and I was really interested in computer programming, like computer science. I was going to go to school for computer science. Just absolutely love computers, and I still do. That's not at all, put by the wayside. Um, but I was going through a few programming courses, web design and stuff like that year, and I decided to also we had like a social forum for the school. It's really weird. It's like a traditional forum, and there was a sort of student tech support program where students could apply, and if you have enough decent experience as tech support, quote unquote, then you can help out some of the tech support guys. And it was actually one of my teachers for my programming. um, he was part of that program as well, a little bit on the side. And so I was all set up to do tech support stuff and do all this, and I was just going through the forums, and I found a forum about flight sim, oddly enough. and it was a forum about a free flight sim. And I was just like, I would be interested in, seeing what this flight sim thing's about. I've seen some other things of flight sim here and there before, and I'm gonna try it. So I get into it. It's the worst flight sim ever. It was free, obviously. So I get into it and I'm doing all the, flipping the switches and doing all the flying stuff. And I'm like, this is interesting. Um, and I think really at that point is when I really got bit by the bug. And that's something that gets passed around aviation a lot is whether or not you've been bit by the bug, right? And that goes for most things out there, most interests and hobbies and stuff like that
Mm-hmm.
is if you're really invested into it, you're bit by the bug.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got bit by the aviation tick and it hasn't let go. So, um, shortly after that, that was ninth grade, I started to get into flight sim through 10th grade and all. And by the time 11th rolled around, I heard about this thing called Civil Air Patrol. And it's they get you some aviation and some actual flights. They take you up in airplanes and you can do all this stuff. And I'm like, cool, let me look into it. Because we had some family friends and associated with the one of the schools we had sort of worked with, and they were family friends and all, where they went, or at least one of them went to Civil Air Patrol. So we go, we try it out. I love it. Um, my brother, not so much, but I loved it and I stuck with it. And I got to the point of getting my orientation flights, as they're called, which are you just go up and you fly with one of the senior members, the adults who has their airplane ratings and all that, and they teach you a little bit about aviation, like 5 legs of flying.
So is that like something like a discovery flight?
Yeah, very similar to a discovery flight. You get to
Okay.
go up anything above 1,000 feet. You can control the airplane and all, and you go out and you fly somewhere, and you learn about 5 different topics. Basic stuff like weather, airplanes, very basic ground knowledge things.
Huh.
I was a priority case because I was about to turn 18, and when you turn 18, you can't get them anymore.
Jeez.
So, yeah, you can't do the free ones after you turned 18.
Hmm.
So I got to go up with one pilot 2 different times by myself so that we could get all 5 flights in.
Hmm.
First flight, we went somewhere, landed, and then turned around and came back. And that counted as 2 flights because orientation flight is one leg, one takeoff to landing. Most of the time, the way they did it, they would put like 2 or 3 cadets in an airplane with a pilot, take off, land somewhere, swap seats. Take off,
Gotcha.
land somewhere, swap seats. Give everyone a chance to sit in the front.
Mm-hmm.
I was the only one because I was turning 18.
Yeah.
They had to get mine done fast, and they had 5 to make up. So I got one. The first trip was out and back, out somewhere and back, probably an hour and a half to 2 hour round trip at most. Great.
Okay.
Second one, I got to do a 3 leg to finish my 3 off. And at that point, I fell in love. It was a little 182. I fell in love with it. Just absolutely, just started flying and was just like, this is what I want to do. I don't want to do IT anymore. I don't want to do computer science. I want to fly planes. Period.
Man.
um so from there I was trying to get ranked up while I was young, while I was still a cadet, trying to get high enough rank and get to the point where I could potentially go to a they have an event where they teach you how to fly and get you to the point of solo within a week through Civil Air Patrol.
Oh.
I tried to get to that and I couldn't. But
What stopped
they
you?
get um I needed to do encampment, which I did at 18, and then I just needed the time and I needed to be accepted.
Gotcha.
And
And was
I
it the
don't
time that
think
just...
I think it was that, and I think I had to have a certain rank, and I couldn't get that because of the physical fitness test. I was not in shape at all and could not run the mile and
Fair
could not
enough.
pass the physical fitness
Fair
because
enough.
the mile was required.
Now,
So,
my timeline's a little skewed. I'm assuming at this point you still have both years, right?
nope.
No, you
And
had lost it at this point.
I was,
So,
yes.
for context, Mike is deaf in one of his ears due to an accident. So he has had to go through medical loops in order to make that work with aviation, correct?
Yeah, so for the medical, you have to go and get medically checked out. And if you have anything in your history, your medical history, that is questionable, then the doctor who checks you out in accordance with the FAA, I'll give them that, they cannot say you're good to go. They have to send it to the FAA medical branch for them to look it over and approve it.
And
The issue with mine
was it the
was the
concussion?
fact that I had a concussion.
Which is
The
crazy to
concussion
me.
caused it.
Which is crazy because concussions are like, I think concussions are kind of common. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I just grew up in like, I grew up playing sports, so maybe that was why I thought it was pretty common. Like, I feel like a lot of people had concussions at some point in their life, but maybe that was
Oh
just my
yeah.
sports side of me.
Oh yeah. I've hit my head a lot harder than I did when I lost my hearing. But
You hit it right.
because it was on my medical, yeah, because it was on my medical history and because the loss of hearing was
Mm-hmm.
due to the concussion, even if it was like a decade before that, right?
Right.
Then I had to go, it had to be deferred. The
Mm-hmm.
medical examiner couldn't say yes or no because it's neurological. It's not anything within his scope. It had to be sent to the FAA, and the FAA took a few weeks to a month to send me another a letter back, obviously, because they take forever and they send it all by snail mail.
Yes.
Um, to say that, hey, you need to go to a neurologist and just get a basic checkout.
Mm-hmm.
Like a return to work examination, make sure the biggest thing is make sure equilibrium's on, not off, and I'm coordinated
Right.
enough and all that. Did all that, got my got a neurologist to say you're perfectly fine. You're other than the hearing loss, you're perfectly fine. And
Other than
sent
this
it into
small
the
detail.
FAA. Yeah, sent it into the FAA, and within a couple weeks, I received my medical. Like they mailed it to me. That was the next thing.
But this
So
was
it was
not the thing
fairly
that was stopping you from getting this
no,
um
no,
this thing.
not from the solo
Okay.
thing. That was just purely my physical fitness. I couldn't run a mile.
Okay. I mean, that's
I
understandable.
probably
Miles can be hard.
so one thing with that course is they would take you if you didn't have a medical, but you couldn't solo. You would get to the point of solo, but
Mm,
you couldn't solo.
gotcha.
Um, but it was still a powered flight academy. Like they take you for like a week or two and you learn how to fly. I mean, that would have been for a fraction of the cost.
Right.
It's like $500 or something like that.
That's not bad.
Gotta love how the government pays for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the government would pay for it and you pay like $500 or $1,000 or something like that. Um, but it didn't work out. I also wanted one thing that Civil Air Patrol does is Oshkosh. If you haven't heard of Oshkosh, it's actually going on right now. It is at the time of filming or
Yeah.
recording.
Yeah.
It is a big air show, trade show, um, airplane camping event
People
that
bring
every
pretty
aviator
planes.
goes to. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big air show. It's a big display show. It goes on for like 2 weeks in the middle of the summer in Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it is absolute chaos to fly in or out of there. It
Oh
turns
yeah.
into the busiest airport in the world
Yep.
for that week or two.
And if you
Like,
haven't
it
seen
surpasses
videos,
everything.
if you haven't seen videos and you're interested in aviation, you need to go watch videos of people trying to fly into this thing because it is actual chaos.
Yeah, like, you have to be able to put it on a spot. Fly it
Yes.
most of the way down the runway, put it on a dot. They tell you this color dot, put it there.
That's crazy.
And they'll land if they have everyone sequenced right and people aren't being idiots. They will land 4 airplanes at a time on a single runway
No. No.
at
That's
the same
no.
time.
I don't know if my
Yeah.
anxiety could handle landing there.
If they tell you you have to go to the last dot, you are floating it the length of the runway.
Oh dear God.
Yeah. It's like if you go into Oshkosh, you have to be on top of your game. You have to research all of this. They have a booklet of notams on how to fly into Oshkosh. Every year
Oh
it
my
changes.
God.
Every year it changes just a little bit. Something in there changes, and you have to brief it and have it on board in case you get something like weather affects stuff and you have to divert for weather or whatever, because it's all visual.
It sounds
It's all
so
visual.
much like a check ride itself.
Oh, it's insane. You don't even talk to tower. You don't talk to anybody. You get visually identified like, hey, blue high wing with bright LEDs or something like that. I've heard all these things, just in videos. Blue high wing over Fisk. It's a point on the route on the way in. Rock your wings, and they verify that you heard them by you rocking your wings. You're pretty much going left, right, and they'll be like, all right, continue this way. They'll break you off either left or right for certain traffic.
Do they have a lot
And
of crashes at this kind of thing?
they have a lot of close calls for in-air stuff. um God, what was it? It was a year or two ago, either last year or the year before. There was a video I was watching of a YouTuber that was a pretty big YouTuber who actually
Mm-hmm.
is like invited there as a display by like Garmin and stuff. He was landing and a Bonanza decided it wasn't going to listen to tower and follow all that and land opposite direction,
Oh my God.
causing 5 or 6 airplanes that were turning base to final at the same time to have to go around. And
Oh
he
my
was one of
God.
them that had to go around.
Jesus.
Bonanza just said, screw this, I'm landing. Opposite direction.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
But you don't.
growing up in Florida, I've seen what's the one that's down in Lakeland area?
Sun and Fun. That one's
Sun
a
and
smaller
Fun.
version of that. That's
And
number
that's
2.
chaos. That's chaos itself.
Mhm.
I don't want to see
Yes.
Oshkosh. Mm-mm.
That one you hold around a pond that they call a lake.
Yeah.
That one
Lakeland, it's close enough.
that you hold around a pond. That's your holding for waiting to be sequenced in.
Yeah.
This one has,
A dream.
how long is it? It's like it can be a damn near 50-mile line
Dear Lord.
on the way in, and you're visually just following the guy in front of you by like half a mile.
No. No.
Same altitude, you have to be like, they have speed restrictions. If you can't maintain a slow enough airspeed at one altitude, you have to be at the higher altitude and be going a higher airspeed or whatever, They sort
No.
of break it up like that. But people, oh my God, people turn around because they'll get broken out, and if they're like, if you ever don't feel comfortable or you need to break out and go back, or they'll send you back at times. you have to turn around and go back to the beginning of the line.
No.
And people will turn around and go opposite direction, like just underneath the line. And it's like, dude, you have to be off the course. You have to be over about a mile before you go opposite direction. But
I
they don't.
will
They don't care.
I will land at a different airport and drive to Oshkosh. I will not fly
Oh,
into Oshkosh.
they suggest that for first timers, if you feel overwhelmed with going into Oshkosh, find another little airport and go there.
But all those
But
are going to be just as crammed. Maybe not as busy, but they're going to be crammed.
oh yeah, they're going to be crammed.
Oh, God.
Um. Anyways,
Anyway.
Civil Air Patrol has a program called, what is it? It was it's like the Blue Beret program. You actually get a blue beret for it that you can wear with your uniform and all.
Hmm.
Where you go up and you help on the ground at Oshkosh, marshaling, sending airplanes, organizing things, assisting, volunteering, doing all that stuff.
Huh.
They are the only organization that will allow teenagers to volunteer.
Okay.
Everyone else, any other volunteers, have to have working line experience and have to have a pretty decent resume of line experience to go.
Okay.
But Civil Air Patrol is the only one that will be like, we're sending teenagers, cadets, to go up here. You have to be a certain rank, but they'll
Still.
go up and they'll be marshaling aircraft, sending them certain directions, go this way, go that way, helping just around the air show and everything like that. And I really wanted to do that. And we actually had one cadet, he was a higher like officer in our squadron who went and got the blue beret, and so that was decently cool, but I wanted to do it too.
Of
And
course.
I never got the rank to do it
Mm.
until after COVID.
Of course.
And yeah. So, but yeah, I all that is to say, I got bit by the bug in high school. Started with Civil Air Patrol, fell in love, absolutely fell in love from there. And
Mm-hmm.
then I was looking into, after I turned 18 and had a little bit of money saved up, I was talking with some flight schools, looking into where I could go to learn to fly and do all this stuff. And 20 end of 2019, beginning of 2020, I decided, we have a community college where I was living, which is I was in the Houston area, Houston, Texas area at the time before I moved out of there. Um, we have a community college that was just starting, like it was their first semester when I was starting to talk to them. They were just starting an associate's degree in aviation with a professional pilot program. So I
Mm-hmm.
was going to go do that and learn to fly with a college there. And it was going to be on the north side of Houston. I did not live on the north side of Houston, but I was able to make the drive if I needed to. And no sooner than I got registered into some of my general courses at my local campus, that was February of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
No sooner than I got uh registered there to start like my general education at my closest campus while I was working a full-time job, um and COVID hit
Yep.
and shut that. February into March is when Houston shut down, because
Mm-hmm.
March is when we have the big Houston rodeo, and you
Mm-hmm.
know it's bad when they cancel the rodeo.
Yep.
That's when
Yep.
they first started having signs of community spread within the Houston area that, hey, we had a few, in February and January, we had a few travelers went on cruise ships, went to Egypt, went various different places that tested positive. That's okay. It's when we had other people who were not traveling abroad
Yeah.
that had community spread, community transmission. They were like, okay, here's 1 or 2 cases. They interacted with someone who traveled abroad. That's okay. They got a few more cases and they were like, this is not going to be okay. We're getting more and more and more now. We need to shut down our biggest community spreader event where
Yeah.
everyone packs into like 3 square miles in all of Houston.
Yep.
We need to shut that down. And that's when we were like, okay, this is serious. And that's when the college said none of the courses were going to be in person. We're going to switch them to all online. I hadn't even started yet, by the way. I was going to start in the summer semester, May.
Mm-hmm.
Like I enrolled in February for a May course or whatever, or something like that.
Right.
I hadn't even paid for it, nothing. Okay, that was the good thing. I just enrolled. And when that started happening, my family was also selling a house and moving to Florida. And I was just like, I got to make a choice of whether or not I'm going to stay and go after the degree here by myself or go to Florida and figure it out later.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up dropping the courses and going to Florida and figuring it out later, which all in all is so much better idea. But
Oh, I wonder why that would be.
I had a slightly rocky start to actually starting my training.
Yeah.
But I got bit by the bug pretty early in high school. Well, halfway through high school. So.
And it's crazy that it was through something else that you were thinking you wanted to do. And you just happen upon this one thing and you're like, okay, let me try this free program and see if it's something that I would like to play around with. And then you just like you fell down the mountain from there, like it wasn't like it wasn't a steady walk downstairs. It was somebody shoved you down the mountain and you tumbled to the bottom. If
you want the actual name for the free simulator, I actually got it still.
Yeah, throw it out there.
Flight Gear.
Ooh.
I started on Flight Gear.
That sounds cheap.
It is free. It is an open source flight simulator, meaning anyone can take it and manipulate it and change the code and use it.
Okay.
And do all that.
That's interesting.
Apparently they're still doing stuff, apparently. But yeah, I just saw a post on it in school and was just like, I'm gonna try this thing. I think I loaded up like a 777, a Boeing 777, and just started clicking buttons and figuring out how things worked and was like, I want to do this. I want to push buttons for a living and not on a keyboard.
That sounds about right. I want to push buttons and flip flips for a living. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, there's multiple levels to aviation. Obviously, there's multiple different kinds of aircrafts that you can fly. And most people, when they think about a pilot going into aviation, their immediate thought is airlines, flying those 737s and commercial flights that go from, like Asheville to California, or whatever the case. If you find one of those, that's amazing. But
you got to go through Denver or Houston first.
Yeah,
or
yeah. Hush. But a lot of people think obviously that you're going to go through airlines, which I know for you is not the pipe dream. But why don't you talk a little bit about the interest that you have, because it is a different viewpoint. It is a different way to go through aviation, and one that a lot of people probably don't even think about.
Right. So, yeah, a lot of things out there and a lot of advertisements for flight schools, and everyone's dream is to go to airlines. And it's great. Airlines, you get good pay, you get decent schedules once you actually, have seniority. and you get travel benefits and you get all these nice things. And most pilots want to do airlines at some point, whether it's, start out in airlines and then go find something else to do, or airlines is their end goal. A lot of pilots and a lot of people in aviation are like, I want to work for an airline. Just to be like, I'm a United pilot, I'm a Delta pilot, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do that because I do not want to fly a bus with people. Sorry, I'm not really the public bus kind of guy. I don't want to be flying, 1 to 200 to 300 to 400 people at a time, depending on the airplane,
Right.
and just fly. I mean, yeah, the airplane would be really nice to fly. I would love to fly an airplane. It's an airplane. But
that's what it dissolves down
to. Right, it is.
Yeah, it is.
If I want to fly something like that, I would rather go cargo.
Fair.
Because then I don't have passengers. My big thing is I don't want passengers without, with like a disconnected sort of get on, get off, get on, get off, get on, get off.
Mechanical almost.
I don't want to be a bus driver.
Fair.
I'll be a UPS driver all day. I don't want to be a bus driver. I personally am much more interested in private aviation, whether that is someone's personal pilot where I fly the same people every time on their schedule, and do something like that. Like a rich guy has an airplane, what's our pilot? I'm the pilot. Cool. Or if that's charter, where they pay a company to fly them somewhere, much like an airline, but it's much higher price and it's much fewer passengers.
Right.
I want something where I have fewer passengers and have more of just a slightly more direct connection with passengers and a one-on-one sort of situation, more than a bus full of 100 to 200 people.
Right.
You
want to have a little bit more one-on-one.
Yeah, like, hey, how are you doing? This is,
the person's
we're
name.
Flying in a small plane. I know the person's name decently. It's 1 or 2 or 3 people, or a smaller group of people, and there's a little bit more camaraderie and stuff like that, and things like that when it comes to the passenger pilot dynamic there. That's just something that's always interested me once I started getting into aviation, was just like, I don't really want to fly airlines. I don't want to be in a bus of people that puke and do this and do that and every single trip.
I want to be in a smaller airplane that pukes in.
That's much less likely.
Yeah, sure.
There's very few, there's very few. I deal with airplanes on the ground for a living right now, and there's very few that come in and ask for bags. We've had some bad ones.
No, they run into the building.
Yeah, they're fairly few and far between when they actually do hurl.
Yeah.
And it's really just the worst days to fly when they do, and it's just bumpy, and you get the one passenger who gets motion sick.
Or they throw salsa on the ceiling, but it's fine.
That's easier than puke.
Yes, that is, but
at least salsa you can lick it up. I mean,
I wouldn't.
You can, yeah. The ceiling's fairly clean.
Sure. For reference, Mike and I do work together. We're married, but we also do work together, which is actually how we met. He handles the aircrafts outside and actually deals hands-on with the aircrafts, and I deal with the passengers more so, just as a little side.
You swipe the credit card.
Yeah, I'm a fancy gas station employee. That's how I always. Yeah, you're the fancy gas station pumper. But we deal with aircrafts on a daily, which is one of the things that we get to experience together and get to share stories about together and just witness the craziness that happens. But it's
Yeah.
fun because it's one of the things that I know Mike wants to get into. And so I get to watch these people and what happens with them and then go, remember, that's what you want to do right there. Remember
I
this.
mean, I'd
I get to
rather
tease
have
him.
I'd rather have stories to tell and just random little adventures than, oh, I'm flying to Denver for the fifth time this week. I'm
Oh,
flying to
100%.
Newark for the fifth time this week. Uh,
Yeah.
I have 5 legs in and out of Newark this week. No, thank you. Or
You
I
get
have
to
five
play ping
legs in and
pong
out of
air.
Atlanta.
Yeah. Go
I
fly
don't
for
want to do
Allegiant
that.
where you fly the same leg for 2 weeks straight, back and forth and
Yeah,
back
no,
and
thank
forth.
you. No, thank you.
No.
I don't want to fly St. Pete to Asheville for 3 times a week.
Ugh. Yeah, no thanks.
God, no.
No.
Or where's their main base? Las Vegas, I think, is
I
one
think
of their main
something like
bases.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'd rather just get, hey, we need to fly here. All right,
Yeah.
we'll put it into this private this, I say private, this smaller airfield where there's no commercial service from an airline that we'd have to deal with. You're close to your target. It's much more one-on-one, and it's more adventurous too.
Instead of
You get
being
to
the
land at
bus of the
places.
sky, you want to be the Uber
Yeah.
of the sky.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very great way to put it. They're actually called air taxis most of the time.
Yeah, I've heard
Um,
that.
Federally, they can be called air taxi or on-demand charter, either one.
Fair.
Just depending on the sort of setup you got in how you advertise and charge people. But yeah.
Well, I know that's something that you have been aiming for, and you're on your path to getting to be a paid pilot, which is really exciting to watch. And I know there was other things in the aviation world that you would like to eventually reach past the point of getting your foot in the door and starting to fly these charters and all that. Do you want to talk a little bit about what interests you in that side of things? Because I know it's a little bit more owning fleet and administrative as well.
Yeah, so one thing I do say about myself is I tend to be more of an entrepreneur as well as a pilot. I really really want to own my own business in aviation specifically, which might be a stupid idea, but um, they always say to make $1 million in aviation, you start with 2 million.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so
They
you got
never
to
said it
lose
has to be
money to
your
make
2 million
money.
though.
Well,
I mean, I know.
um, so I would really love to start my own charter company and maybe own a fleet or do like we have some tenants that do where we work that they sort of lease airplanes from private owners and put them to work as a charter to make some money back for the owners and all, and to make money as the charter service itself a little bit, but something along the lines of just running my own charter business, whether that's for passengers or cargo or, medical, whatever that entails. Um, I would just love to run it myself and own it myself a as an entrepreneur. I know aviation's expensive and it
Yes.
is you lose more than you make most of the time. Um, but something small that would just make a little bit of income here and there would be nice to start with.
Right.
Um, I'm also looking at and and this, but I'm looking at doing just like a management company
Mm-hmm.
where a buddy of mine and I are looking into it. where we would charge on a monthly basis. We would charge owners to manage their airplane for them so that they don't have to worry about maintenance, about whether the airplane's ready to fly, whether it's legal to fly, if it's clean, make sure it's good to take on trips, that maintenance is scheduled correctly and all that, make sure that it's got pilots, make sure that it's, you know, take care of the airplane so that they don't have to
All the
and
behind the
save
scenes
them time.
stuff.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
the behind the scenes specific to the airplane. And you can even do financial side for the airplane as well.
Hmm.
Excuse me. You can do like bookkeeping when it comes to the operation of the airplane, like fuel costs this costs this much, this costs that much, and just be like, hey, these are all the expenses that it costs this month.
Hmm.
And you can even break it down, be like, hey, it costs this much per hour by the time everything was calculated this month. Um, based on the hours that the airplane flew or whatever. Uh but yeah, something along the lines of that. We're also looking at maybe starting either an airplane rental company or a flight school, one of the two. Um, just my buddy and I am really entrepreneurial at heart. I think that's the word for it.
I think so.
And just want to start stuff and make some money doing what I love and handling what I love, more so than I am right now. So
Yeah, and I think that's something that you and I share a passion in is just like coming up with ideas and seeing if we can make it happen. Because while it might not
mhm.
be in the same categories a lot of the time, because you're a hell of a lot more into this aviation stuff than I am. Like, yes, I'm in the world and I understand what's happening, and I'm happy to be watching you go through it. But you definitely have the aviation bug, while I just kind of have like the little cheerleader flag on the side as a proud wife going, yay, yeah, aviation, go. I want to ride on the plane. But
Well,
it's something that I get to watch you go through with your buddy that's a little bit more into it than I am. But I also am very interested in watching you start up a company and start up a business idea and watch it go from stage 1 to stage 10 and see if you can make
mhm.
profit on it and hopefully not lose profit. Profit is a little bit ideal at this point.
No, at that point we just pass it off on the guys who have the money.
That's fair. Like I said, in order to make 1 million, you got to start with 2, but it doesn't have to be your 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's been interesting watching you go through all this because all this is fairly recent with
Mhm.
starting companies up, and you are very entrepreneurial and you're very business
That
oriented.
word.
You're
That
very
word.
business oriented at heart. And it's something that I didn't know about you until fairly recently. And
I found it out myself too. I mean,
I've loved watching that come to terms, especially since, it's something that I've always been interested in because it's like,
mhm.
okay, I might not be able to connect to him as much with aviation, but I can connect with him through business aviation, if nothing else.
Yeah.
It's been really interesting. But over the course of us being together and you flying and everything like that, you've gotten to fly several different types of aircrafts, everything from a 172, which for reference it's a flying sedan, essentially. It's about four people.
Well, 4
It,
people
it,
being
it can fit four people's
gracious.
butts. Whether it can hold their weight is a different story. With fuel enough to take off the ground. And you've flown something as big as a Premier, which holds like what, 8 people? Is that about accurate?
I think it's including pilots, I think it's an 8-seater,
Okay, so including
I
pilots, eight
believe,
seater, and then
or something
recently,
like
at the
that.
time of the recording yesterday, we you got to take me up in the most recent plane that you've been flying, which is a 421. Sits about 6
It's
people
an
in the
8,
back,
6 in the back. It's an 8-seater overall.
but it's smaller than a
Um,
Premier, a lot smaller.
yeah. Well, yeah. Footprint size, it's a little bit smaller just because of Premier's. taller.
You got your leg room in the Premier. You have some leg room in the 421 if there's no other people.
You have crouch standing room in the Premier. You have kneeing room in the 421.
That's a way to put it. Like a Premier is a jet though, and a 421 is what's called a double piston aircraft. So there has two props on the front. What has been your favorite plane to fly? Either both performance wise or, what's been the most fun to press all the buttons in, or what's been the coolest takeoff, like they could be separate categories, but like, I want you to just tell me a little bit about what you've liked about the aircrafts that you've flown and what your favorite ones have been in.
So, God, that's a hard one.
I'm putting you in the hot seat.
First off, I'm going to go over sort of what I've flown as a whole. I have my logbook up over here.
Of course you
my
do.
digital one. As you said, I started out in 172s. 172s are your traditional trainer. If you think of a training airplane, it's got a high wing, it's got the strut that comes across, it's a small Cessna. It's got 2 doors, it's got 4 seats that don't hold 4 butts worth of seats. Unless you have like no fuel in it.
Or children.
Trust me, I've done it. I've done it with you actually, and your best friend.
Yeah.
That was it flew fine.
If you're planning on taking 3 children somewhere, it is a great plane. Otherwise, and these kids have to be like 5. But otherwise,
if you're a lighter person and you have 2 kids or something like that, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
If you and your wife are a little bit smaller in weight, I'd say smaller being under 200 pounds on average, is definitely on the smaller side nowadays.
Yeah.
And you have two younger kids, a 172 is great. You can throw a few bags in the back, whatever.
It's perfect.
Most of the time people upgrade to a 182. It's just got more power and more weight capacity, goes a little bit faster, but it's a similar idea.
Still about the size of a sedan.
Right? Yeah, they're about the same size on the inside. 182 might be a little bigger, but not much. Right. So I've flown 172s. I've flown a variety of those kinds. So there's different years and different models, like cars. You have a this year versus that year. The way airplanes are is you have different year ranges where they produce the same specific airplane, and then they'll switch it, they'll change something on it and produce a different letter, maybe, depending on the airplane. So 172s, they go, your basic 172 was the first few that they made, and then they started making 172 alphas or A's, 172 B's, C's, D's, and they went down the list of the alphabet. Till they got to Sierras. Sierras is S is what they're on now, and I think they're just keeping it. And they have a few others in there that are weird, like SPs and XPs, weird ones. But I've flown a good variety of those. Right around the middle models, I've flown some of the very early ones. Those are totally different. And it sucks. But I've flown one of those for one flight, and it was yeah. I've flown a lot of newer ones, Sierra models, as I said. I've flown a lot of like the Mike models and the kilos and things like that. A lot of like the middle production models, like I or H through M or N, those are about the middle, like 60s and 70s. That's like the prime of airplanes when they were really making the good ones that last a decent bit. I've also flown Cherokee Archers, which are low wings. They're another type of trainer that you see around a lot, because there's one flight school that uses them that is nationwide and uses like nothing but them. But I've flown a good bit in those two. I've flown when I did my multi-engine rating, I flew what's called a Seneca. I flew the first iteration of the Seneca 1. What that is it's a longer version of the Cherokee, and it's got 2 engines, and it's just a basic multi. It's made to be like a traveler multi, whereas like the Seminole that's more of the Archer body with 2 engines for the like the trainer level. But the Senecas are made to be like a family traveler. You can load up. It's got 6 seats in it. It's got a decent bit of weight capacity. It's got a decent bit of fuel,
Right.
Um,
And
it's not high performance or anything.
I just want to touch on real quick, in case people don't know, you have different ratings as you're ranking up through your schooling. And you start with like what's called VFR, which is what is it? Visual flight. I don't know what the R
You
is.
almost got it.
Visual flight.
You got to follow
VFR. What's the R? Radar? Visual flight radar?
No.
That's not it.
Rules.
Visual flight route?
Rules.
Okay, well, that was never gone that.
Rules.
Rules.
Follow the
rules. Okay, so visual flight rules. Basically, you are flying by your sight, and you're not using your instruments as much to guide you through the flight process. You're following like roads below. You're not flying like by GPS essentially. Is that accurate? You're going. Yeah.
You have to see where you're limited by weather.
Right. And then you rank up to IFR, which is instrument flight rules, I'm assuming. Correct?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So now you're flying by GPS. You're not using visual cues as much. You can fly through clouds. You don't have to be able to see as clearly. I would assume there are some limitations there, but yeah.
Depends mostly on takeoff and landing. And it really depends on how you're operating. Like if you're operating a charter, you have restrictions on takeoff. Whereas if you're just operating yourself, then you can take off in anything, technically, legally.
Now here's where I'm going to be testing my knowledge here. I'm gonna put myself out on this limb here. So then you have your multi-engine, correct? After IFR, or is it commercial first?
Typically, you do your initial commercial in most training regiments.
And that's what's allowing you to do if you were able to somehow get paid at the low hours that you're probably at getting your commercial, you are now allowed to accept payment for flight. Is that correct?
Money. Yep. So, yep.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And then you have your multi-engine, which means you can now fly planes that have more than one engine on them. Correct?
Yep.
Okay. And then after that, you go to your CF5s, which is your flight instructor. Is that correct?
Typically, most people go do CFIs.
Yeah, like CFI is at the point where you can start to branch off by either going to get a job or actually going through with CFI, which is the point that you are kind of sitting at that crossroads right now, trying to go between getting a job / working through CFI training, meaning you could go and start instructing people who are at that solo / VFR / IFR ratings and start teaching them and getting them through those ratings and getting them ranked up. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have the same sort of ratings for your CFI as you do your standard certificate. You have the initial is just you can teach people like private, commercial, and stuff like that, VFR based. You have your instrument instructor, which means you can teach instrument flight rules, your instrument rating. And then you have like your multi-engine instructor, which means you can teach a multi-engine.
Right. And all of this has like there's multiple layers with hours and how long of a flight time you have, and you're kind of working through the aircrafts that you've flown in the order of which you're getting your rankings almost, it sounds like. Is that kind of following True there? Sort of?
Yeah, sort of.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I heard you mention your multi-engine rating, and I was like, people might not know about the rating, so I wanted to just touch base on that before you continued. But Go on. Sorry.
Yeah. So you start with your private, which in most cases is single engine land, airplane single engine land, unless you're doing like a helicopter thing. You start with your private, which means, hey, you can fly and you can fly with packs. You have to pay for it, but you can fly, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, it's the FAA, and I was telling the buddy whose name shall not be mentioned, just because. I was telling him we were talking about it. God, we were talking about it with some of the line crew as they were putting one of the plane away the other day. It's like, if you're not paying, you're getting paid.
Yeah.
Is the way the FAA looks at it.
Honestly,
So
yeah.
you cannot fly for free as a private pilot. You have to pay your share, whether that's, oh, I have 4 passengers in an airplane I'm rated for. I have to pay, that's 5 people. I have to pay a fifth of the operating costs.
So, like, if I was flying with you and we were not married and all that, and you were at the point of not being able to be paid to fly, if I walked up to the counter and paid the bill, technically that is me paying you in an obscure way, and it would actually go against the rules of the FAA, pretty much.
If you paid the whole bill,
That's
yeah,
yeah. Like if I walked up and
I
there
would
was
have
like a sitting on the ramp fee and I paid that bill and you didn't take fuel or anything else, that would be me paying you offhandedly.
to an extent.
In the
If
eyes of
I'm
the
paying the
FAA.
rental, well, if I'm paying the rental, then that's fine, as
Oh,
long as the
okay.
ramp fee is under the rental. So I have to, in that
Oh.
case, all of the fees that are associated with the flight, whether that's rental, fuel, ramp fees, um,
Oh.
oil, stuff like that, anything associated with the operation of that aircraft, I have to pay what's called pro rata, which is per
Gotcha.
head. That's per head or per passenger, per person, whatever you want to call it. If it was 2 people, I'm the pilot, you're the passenger, I
Yeah.
have to pay half the cost minimum.
Jeez. Okay.
So you can cover fuel if it's less than half the cost. You can
Gotcha.
cover the ramp fee if it's, $5 because the rental fee is like $100 an hour or
Yeah.
$200 an hour.
I was about to say I shouldn't
Um,
cover the fuel because that's probably going to be over the rental sometimes depending on where you go.
right. The least amount, well, at that point, if we're putting that much fuel in it, it would be under, but it would be under half. At
Fair.
the least amount that I can pay is half of the operating everything.
Gotcha.
Rental is included. Rental fees is specifically included.
Gotcha.
Um, but if I have, let's say I have 3 passengers in the airplane and they all and we all split the cost, quote unquote, me being the pilot, I have to pay at least a quarter of the overall cost of the flight.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how they split it. That's not my problem. If
As long
that's
as you
one
paid your
person
part.
paying, right, as if there's one of them paying for the other 3/4 and they want to do it that way, that's not on me.
Gotcha.
I have to, as the pilot, pay my portion of however many people are in there
Gotcha.
of the total cost. So that's the limitation with private and VFR.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, you do single engine first, though, and then you go and do your instrument rating, which is just an add-on to your private pilot certificate that says, "Hey, you can fly without being able to see anything. You
You have
fly
to see
by
your
the
instruments.
instruments." Yeah,
You have to
yeah,
be able to see your
exactly.
instruments. You can't be blind.
And then you typically go on, if you're doing a professional pilot course, you typically go on and do your commercial.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times you do your single engine first, although there are programs out there where they offer you get your multi-engine first and build your time in multi throughout the
Interesting.
majority of it, so that you're building that multi-time, which is very crucial for hiring.
Yeah.
Having like 50 hours of multi is what most places want.
Yeah.
Um,
Insurance reasons.
yeah. And then, so you typically just do your commercial initial, which means you can get paid to fly.
Yeah.
So if you're not paying, you're getting paid by the FAA's eyes. I can go and I can fly an airplane. Whether or not I get paid cash is, that doesn't really matter to the
Right.
FAA. If I'm literally just flying the airplane for free and someone else is paying for it, then I am technically getting compensated according to the FAA for the flight time through hours.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. So I'm technically getting paid for all these flights I've been taking recently.
Oh man, I wish. Anyway.
According to the FAA.
Yeah, and the FAA. Never mind. You know what? We're not gonna dive into that. Anyway, go on.
And then yeah, you do a multi-engine add-on. All that is hey, I can fly a multi-engine with my current certificate level.
Mm-hmm.
It just lets you fly a different category
Right.
of airplane.
Okay.
Multi-engine land. So
Okay. Well,
um
going back to the favorite airplanes.
so I flew the Seneca for my multi-engine rating when I did the training and the check ride and all of that.
Right.
I have like 12 hours in that thing with all that.
It doesn't take long to get a rating on some of these. Some of them take a while. Multi-engine, you only
Multi-engine,
had to
there's
have
no
like 10 hours, right?
no, there's no requirement for hours.
Oh, well.
You have to fly it within the last 90 days or something like that and get signed off by a CFI or an MEI.
Well, that ain't jack.
No. There's no hour requirement. The only hour requirement is when you do your CFI, you have to have 15 hours in the category of airplane. So if I just did my 12 hours of Seneca and went to do my MEI, I'd have to fly another 3 hours in a multi-engine airplane
Dang.
to get my multi.
Gotcha.
Most people by the time they get to CFI, they have, 300-400 hours in a single engine airplane.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter at that point.
Right.
But it's like if you get your multi and then go for a multi-engine instructor, you need a few more hours most of the time.
Right.
So I've flown a Cessna 150. It's just a smaller 172. Yeah, it's a two-seater, and it can barely hold two people with half fuel.
Is that the one that you went up with the other guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I was like, when did you fly 150?
Okay. Yeah, I got just over 2 hours in that thing. It's a 150. It flies. It's an airplane.
Yeah, sure.
It's just a small airplane and a really cramped airplane, but it's an airplane.
No thanks.
I have 2.7 hours in the Premier. A Premier is a jet, a multi-engine private jet. It's a smaller jet, but it's a jet. I have just under 3 hours, 2.7 total in that thing. And I like that one a lot because it's a jet. But it's really fun to fly when it comes to like climb out because you're going as fast as you can.
Mm-hmm.
There's a speed limit of 250 knots, which is just over 250 miles an hour, through the air under 10,000 feet.
Yeah.
And you're climbing this thing at max throttle or max continuous throttle is what is called max continuous thrust. You're climbing this thing at 250 knots and you're going up about 2,500 to 3,000 feet a minute, which is a lot.
Yeah.
And it shoots straight up.
It does.
Like nobody's business.
As someone who has 0.2 hours as passenger of a Premier, it does shoot like straight up.
And that one we had to pull it back a lot because we were going just, up and down pretty much.
We went from airplane to rocket ship back to airplane, and that was the takeoff.
Yeah. And then my most recent that I now have just over 22 hours in is a Cessna 421. It is a multi-engine or a twin engine, two engine, what's called cabin class piston airplane. It's cabin class because you actually have a bigger sized cabin for the passengers on the airplane, and you have like a separated flight deck pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest thing with that is there are dividers that go behind the pilot seats so that you have a sort of separate cabin.
Yeah.
Most of those little light twins that are about the same size, they're not cabin class because they just have seats in the back. There's no separator, nothing like that. Most of the time you have a separate door to get into the front. With a cabin class, you go through one door, and on these ones it's most of the time in the back of the airplane,
Mm-hmm.
just, because that's the best spot to put it.
Yeah.
So, it's a little bit bigger of a light piston twin. It is a lot of airplane. That
Yeah.
thing is, we were saying we flew it yesterday. We flew it where I actually got to hands-on fly it. We were doing some training with it. I've flown it a decent bit, just running radios and right seat and doing checklists and helping out with it because it is a lot to handle. Um, but I actually got to fly it yesterday, and it is a lot of airplane because you take off full throttle, but you take off, get off the ground, you're in the climb, you have to pull your throttles back. You have to change you change the pitch on the props, which slows the propeller speed down, um, makes it quieter and helps it climb a little better, whatever. Doesn't put as much stress on it. But you have to pull that back, and you have to watch your fuel mixture, which adjusts. You adjust the how much fuel is going into the engine, and it's a lot on takeoff and on like initial climb out and departure. When you're having to do all that, you're having to fly the airplane, you're having to the day before yesterday, my buddy and I flew a trip for the owner, and we took off straight into the clouds. And when you can't see, it's fairly disorienting. And it's for that airplane, it is a lot going on all at once when you're on the climb out, trying to follow heading, trying to maintain airspeed and a climb, and you're trying to pull all these different levers and knobs back to where you need them, and it gets to be a massive handful.
Right.
I honestly love that one the most because it's a thinking pilot's airplane. I've seen it called that a few times, but it really is a thinking pilot's airplane.
Mm-hmm.
That 421, it's really funky because the propellers are geared. Most pistons are what we call direct drive. So if you can think of an engine, an engine has a like a drive shaft, or it's off the what's called a crankshaft, comes out and spins something else. That in
Mm-hmm.
a car it turns the wheels, in a plane it turns the prop. Most airplanes are what's called direct drive. So the engine itself just directly goes, the crankshaft off the engine or whatever that turns most other things goes directly to the prop and spins the prop 1 to 1.
Right.
On this thing, it is the weirdest thing ever. Hardly any other airplane does it. It's got geared engines. So it goes out of the engine, it goes through a transmission, sort of, or a gear ratio changer. So it changes how fast the prop and the engine are spinning at different speeds.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're spinning the prop from there. And it's really finicky because number one, these engines are picky. In any airplane that these engines are in, they're just stupidly picky. Most people change them for an upgraded engine, an aftermarket upgraded engine that can be approved for it. But these engines, and this is the original engines, they're finicky as I mean, they're just super finicky when it comes to fuel, when it comes to power, when it comes to this, that, and the other. And then with the geared props, you can actually break stuff easier if you don't fly it right with power
Right.
settings and all. Um, and on top of that, you have turbos in it because you can get up in really high in this thing. You can get up in the what's called the flight levels, like 20,000 feet up. It's got turbos for that, and you have to watch turbo temperature. You have to make sure you're cooling them off slowly on the way down so that you don't crack anything. Because if you cool it off too fast, then you run the risk of shrinking the metal too fast and cracking stuff. And
Jeez.
it's really a thinking pilot's airplane. And the fuel system is just chaos. The fuel system in this thing, you have we have 5 tanks of fuel specifically. You have
Uh-huh.
main tanks, which are on the tips. They're big pods on the tip of the wings. You have your aux tanks, which are in the wings, and then we have one what's called a baggage nacelle tank. You can pull fuel out of the mains and the auxes, but the baggage tank only transfers to the left main. And then you have to pull for the right engine, you typically pull from the right wing and those 2 tanks. You
Uh-huh.
can also pull from the left main. And so since you transfer fuel from one tank to the left main, you have to equal it out a little bit, and you have to pull the right engine off the left main, and it's
Okay.
a lot.
It
You
sounds like a
gotta
lot.
think.
I'm getting
It's
tired just
it
listening to you. Like, that does sound like a lot to handle.
it is a thinking pilot's airplane, and that's probably why I like it so much. Like
Probably.
the Premier, the jet, it's a jet. It thrust goes up and down. It's push button start. It starts itself pretty much. You introduce fuel at the right point. Cool. It's fast. The Premier is fast,
Yeah.
but with the 421, it's you're doing a lot of stuff really quickly, and you're not even going like super fast. You're going pretty fast. You're going over 100 miles an hour on
Right.
takeoff. Um, you start pulling it off the ground at 100 miles an hour.
Right.
But once you're up in the air and you're going gear up, you're getting your orientation set, you're watching where you're going, you're pulling the engines back, you're pulling the props back, you're adjusting your mixture, making sure the pumps go the right way, and you might need to switch tanks and do all this, that, and the other. And it is a thinking pilot's airplane for sure.
Right.
So I like it. I
I
like
mean,
it a lot.
just watching you yesterday, I could tell that there was it was more than what I'm used to watching you do. And I didn't have a great angle from watching because I was in the back, but it was it was different from how you normally handle flying. Like you were more into the actual instruments and watching everything and making sure things were going right up there than you were like flying the 172 or the Piper. Like you had more to watch and do, it seemed like, which I could tell you were more excited about.
Yeah, because you got to watch all of your temperature, especially yesterday. We were doing a lot of takeoffs and landings.
Yeah.
Um, in fairly quick succession,
Yeah.
and that those engines are really finicky when you warm them up and cool them down and warm them up and cool them down
Yeah.
in succession like that. So, we're watching temps the whole time, every throttle up, we're making sure everything feels right. Those engines don't like being on the ground. I don't know if you could tell. They shudder a little bit
Yeah.
at idle
Yeah.
on the ground. They're just like, "Hey, we need to go." At throttle, like when you're in the air, they run perfectly fine.
Right. It's just on
Um,
the ground that they don't like it.
at low throttle and mostly on the ground, they just when they have to sit there and idle, they're just like, "No, we wanna go." Um, and I mean, it's just that's the most issues we've had out of that thing is sitting on the ground. It likes to like we had one ground session where we landed, loaded up pretty quickly and started up without cooling the fuel lines down.
Uh-huh.
Um, so the fuel sort of evaporated
Oh,
and cause what's called vapor lock in the lines. It's
huh.
normal. It's completely normal for direct injected engines, which these are.
Right.
Um, One fix for it that we've seen from an organization who actually works on and flies these twin Cessnas, as they're called, all the time, and flies these engines all the time, is hey, if you're doing a hot start, like your engines are pretty warm, like they were, run the fuel pumps, the electric fuel pumps, for like 30 seconds to cool off the lines and get fuel in there to prevent vapor lock.
Huh.
And we didn't do it. So the right engine, as we're trying to taxi out, is like about to shut down and kill itself because it's hitting these pockets where there's no fuel.
Oh, jeez.
And it's shuddering and spitting and just not wanting to do anything. And it's just like, give it a little throttle, get some more fuel in there. It perks right up. You pull the throttle back and it starts vapor locking again. And we're just like, okay, it's running fine if you add throttle and add fuel, but till then, on the ground,
Right.
it's not liking it as we're taxiing out. It's just like, and it's just like, it's not wanting to stay running on the ground. Once we got up in the air, it was perfectly fine. Like, that thing sounds amazing once it's up and running. But
So the 421 is kind of winning in your favorite plane
yeah,
category.
it's a lot to think about,
Yeah.
and especially if you're running packs like we have been, where you got to load up and you got to get everything weight and balanced correctly, and you got to make sure you're all set, and it's pressurized, so you got to worry about that, and you got to worry about the fuel and do all this. It's a lot of airplane, but it is a fun airplane to actually fly. It runs so well when it's actually up and on and at altitude and flying.
So
So
how many hours are you at this point?
total, or
Yeah, total.
I have just under 360, 359.2.
So for reference, going to airlines, you have to have 1,500. So in all honesty,
Yeah.
you're still kind of a low time pilot, which I mean is normal for about the state that you're in. I feel like talking to a lot of people, unless you go through a program where you are meant to get that 1,500 hours. Like I know with certain schools, they keep you as a instructor until you have 1,500 hours and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I mean, you're doing great for somebody who hasn't gone through one of those programs. And
Yeah.
I mean, rightfully so. It's expensive to go through those programs, and you go through it like that. It's expensive to not go through one of those programs, but but as I'm sure anyone listening can tell, Mike is a very passionate pilot. He can talk
I
for
got bit by
hours.
the bug.
He can talk for hours about this, and believe me, outside of the podcast, he does talk for hours about aviation, and it is a core subject for most of our conversations. But I think at this point, I would like to do a part 2 at some point, not right away, not next week, about maybe when you get a little bit farther in your hours, or maybe when something develops a little bit farther in your professional flying career. I would love to sit back down and maybe talk about what has changed in between this podcast and the next one that we hope to do.
Yeah.
Until then, first off, thank you for talking about all of this with me. I know it's not like it was a chore. This was probably extremely fun for you to just talk about aviation and have an excuse to talk about aviation for an hour and 15 or so minutes. Because again, you always look for reasons to talk about it. And like I've said, Mike is going to be joining me as a co-host for this foreseeable future. And it's not just going to be about aviation, although I have a feeling like that's going to slip in more often than it's not. But
I'm sorry, I'm a pilot. What can I say?
I know I expect nothing less. I married you knowing what I was getting into, and I wouldn't expect anything else from you.
Yep.
Yep. But thank you so much for joining me today and allowing us to pick your brain a little bit about what it's like to be a pilot. We look forward to hearing more about all of this, I'm sure, in the future. I'm sure we'll find other subjects to talk about. But
Yep.
are there any final words that you would like to throw in before we end the podcast here?
I mean, Yeah, we'll definitely come back to it. I know I got a trip this next week going up to Michigan area and some longer trips and all possibly in the near future. Longer than the hour flights I've been taking in the 421.
Right.
Um, and we are definitely pushing to actually get me paid for these things as well, and not just flying as an extra set of eyes and extra pilot on this thing for my buddy. But yeah,
And
we'll
at
come
some
back to it and
point,
look at it.
at some point when you have more trips under your belt, I think we need to sit down and have like a funny trips story podcast and just hear
I've
what kind
already
of
got some of
craziness.
those. God.
I know, but I don't feel like you have enough to fill a whole podcast yet. So we'll come back when you do, because I know you have a couple. Just keep building them up, because I will be picking your brains with those, because I want to hear them.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. I look forward to hearing more stories about aviation in the future on this podcast. And also, I look forward to co-hosting this with you, since things have kind of shifted in the podcast space for us. But I'm excited to have you joining me. So thank you for all that. And
Yeah, always.
as for the listeners, thank you guys for listening. We appreciate it. And we'll see you next week on the This Might Mean Something podcast. Bye, guys.
Bye.